Hi, everyone. This is Suzanne Wagner, and I am doing another chapter in my book. And this is probably a two-part section. The idea at this particular moment is around Coppelia, Eva Evdokimova, and the conductor. So many moments from our past shape who we are even now. My life, and I believe all lives, are a collection of shards of glass that become a part of this life's kaleidoscope of colors. Those shards of experiences are various colors, and we place them inside our inner tube that we call the self, and then we twist and turn things around inside and see very different things unfold before our eyes in amazement. But all those small pieces of glass rolling around and forming a myriad of magical shapes, symbols, and patterns in our lives are pieces that will remain inside as long as we have this body, and whether we realize it or not, they color our world, our perception, and enliven us with their continued beauty. In my life, many of those beautiful crystals were people. Some were events, and some I shaped myself with each layer of awareness that unfolded. Every piece of wisdom integrated, added more color, depth, and nuance into that kaleidoscope, and have enhanced my awareness and enlivened my perceptions. I remember being in Paris and knowing my way into the Paris Opera on my very first trip to that beautiful city when I was 19 years old. Without warning, I got such a strong past life flash that I walked into the backstage entrance without anyone stopping me. Undaunted or stopped by anything like a sylph, I made my way backstage and sat in the audience watching the rehearsal of La Fille Margardée being done on the stage. I remember marveling that I knew my way intuitively around the theater like the back of my hand. I remember feeling like I was home. That was until someone realized that I did not belong there and asked me who I was and what I was doing, as this was a closed rehearsal. I pretended to be a stupid American, and they could not figure out how I got back there because all the doors from the front were locked. I, of course, did not come in from the front. I was politely escorted out, but I remember sitting there for what seemed a long time as feelings swept through my body like a wind that wanted to overwhelm me. Nostalgia swam through my psyche, pleasure and pain, and the awareness of a soul's joy and excitement that had clouded my judgment, and where we made a choice that I knew cost me my life in that life. I could smell my costume on fire. I could smell the burning of my skin. I could hear the gasps of the audience in horror. I could see the dwarf shimmying down the rope from the boom above the stage and throwing a piece of burlap on top of me to squelch the flames, and I remembered the terrible physical pain. But what was worse was the terrible feeling that I had contributed to this horrific event, and that I had no one to blame but myself. When such moments happen, they come in unprovoked and without warning. It was as if the person that I was then was attempting to communicate with me now. It felt as if I was bumping into the filaments of another life and the intentions and choices of another me. She wanted me to remember. She wanted me to love her and forgive her. She wanted to come home inside who I was now. I was in her home. We would come home. We could come home. She needed to be with me. I remember questioning everything that I thought I was. I questioned if I was really me, or if I was finishing up her lifetime that was clearly cut short. And then I realized that it was both. The angels had told me when I was a child that no part of myself could be left behind, that to transcend this reality, I had to embrace all the pasts, all the things in this present moment, and integrate them inside myself into a balanced way so that all felt loved, supported, honored, and respected for the lessons that they carried and the wisdom they experienced. Leaving the Palace Garnier, I was in a daze. I did not know if I was really here or there, or still here, or still really there. One foot lingered in another time and place, seeking to find peace inside. Little did I know how that young French ballerina was my North Star in this life. She would quietly point me in the direction of my true north. She would be the wraith that would initiate my actions and choices so that she could complete the unresolved karma that she carried and that I had unknowingly intended to integrate in this life. I thought I was making my own choices in this life, but the truth was that in this life, this life was to be one of integration of all my lives. I had bumped into her many times as a child, but it was mostly in dreams. I would dream that I had caught on fire. I was running across a stage, but my costume was on fire. I would hear my own screams that seemed to come from far away, echoing in my mind, and I would feel the rough burlap bag being dropped on my scorched flesh to put out the flames as pieces of my skin were scraped off in their attempt to put out the fire. And I would see the face of the young dwarf who always stood on the batten, which were the links of pipe that had drop curtains tied to them that were the scenery, and that's how the scenery was tied up and dropped down in scene changes. I would see his sweet face, so concerned, his odd-shaped head, and his soothing voice as I passed out. That is where I would wake up. As a child, I had this dream repeatedly for years. Because of the dream, I was terrified that my room or the house would catch on fire. I had every escape route planned and all strategies and exits worked out in my mind. As a 7-year-old, I heard a fire truck one day and instantly went out my bedroom window, down the roof to the tree at the side of the house, shimmied down the tree, and went out to the front yard. There I saw my mother in the front yard watching the fire truck down the street down a few houses, and she looked stunned as I came around, out of breath, anxiety in my eyes, and scratched from the tree bark and limbs. She asked me what I was doing, and I said I had to escape the house because of the fire. She said that our house was not on fire, but it was something a few houses down as she pointed to the trucks. That was when I felt that even though my house was not on fire, I knew I could escape the fire. I knew that I could find a way out and be safe. From that point on, the dream seemed to fade into the mist and fear diminished. Some part of me knew that I would be smart in this life around fire. I spent my childhood being very careful around fires. Even now I'm very careful around matches, fireplaces, etc. Somehow this was an important lesson to remember. Thanks, everyone.